how to create a chatbot in 10 minutes with SharePoint. Now, I'm going to be showing you exactly how you can go and create your first chatbot using documents that live inside of SharePoint. So this is perfect if you have a SharePoint which is like a knowledge base of some description, a single source of truth, like a policy management system is what we're going to be looking at in this particular example, and then building a chatbot very quickly from those particular policy documents, which then employees can ask any questions that they have and get them answered very quickly, which is going to save loads of time from, for example, your HR department having to answer frequently asked questions. But first, what is a chatbot agent? So a chatbot agent is a software application that simulates human conversation. So having that chat that goes backwards and forwards between the end user and the chatbot interface. They are designed to interact with users via text or voice interfaces. Now, SharePoint agents for now are just going to be text, but I can't imagine that it'll be too long before voice interactions are also included. Chatbot agents in general can provide information, answer questions, and assist with tasks. So why would we want to use an agent? So agents can automate repetitive tasks, saving time and resources from people actually having to do things like answering questions and things like that. They can also provide 24/7 availability for user assistance. So say, for example, if your workforce actually operates 24/7, maybe they're in, say, manufacturing, operating machinery, maybe they are out in the in sort of the field, out and about, wherever it is, rather than actually having office staff, back office staff available 24/7 to be able to answer these questions, potentially you could have an agent which can actually do this. So using agents can enhance user experience by providing immediate responses. Agents can integrate into existing teams, saving a lot of time and effort and energy through repetitive tasks. Now, what we're talking about here is SharePoint agents, but there's actually 3 different levels of agents that Microsoft AI can provide. And they're almost in sort of category order, so in terms of order of complexity. So first we have SharePoint agents. So this is designed to enhance collaboration within SharePoint. So documents that you currently have in SharePoint, but very soon it's also going to be able to reason over the pages of SharePoint as well. It's very simple, and we're going to see that in this, how we actually go about building out the interface. Very, very simple, and it aligns with all the SharePoint compliance. So SharePoint agents actually come with the Copilot license. So if you already have a Copilot license, you can already create these SharePoint agents. Then we have a Copilot Studio. Now, this is almost like a step up from this. It's a bit more of a kind of more into the realms of actually building something using a bit more logic. Now, it's not in the full kind of developer world. We're still referring to this as a low-code creation when you're creating this, but it can be applied to any channel. So it's not just being published in SharePoint. It could be in Teams. It could be on your public website. Copilot Studio agents are kind of slightly more complex what they can do. They can even do things like they're kicking off workflows. So say, for example, a user types into their computer that they're looking to get a new laptop or a new mobile phone, some sort of new hardware from their employer. Maybe Copilot Studio then can go off and check what they're entitled to, and even then process the order if they're allowed, which then sends it off and maybe creates a task in the background for an employee to actually deploy the laptop and ship it out to them and things like that, which then results in a happy customer, or in this case, a happy employee. But you see what I mean? We can trigger these workflows. Now, all the data is based in Microsoft, so it is a software as a service platform. It's accessed directly through a web browser, and it fits all the Microsoft 365 standards of security, compliance, and governance. Then the third layer is what we call Azure AI Foundry agents. Now, these are a little bit more complex. Again, so this is more into the full developer world where you can deploy robust enterprise-grade AIs. So these are fully configurable to enterprise needs, and they go a lot further than kind of what we talked about before. We can basically automate processes across all sorts of different applications and services. And of course, again, This complies with all the Azure security requirements, ensuring that you have a secure and safe agent solution. So let's get talking about SharePoint Agents. So as I said before, SharePoint Agents are included in your Copilot license. So you can start building out these directly after this, following the step-by-steps I'm about to show you, if you have a Copilot license. Of course, if you need a Copilot license, you can also contact us. There's a link in the description below, and we can talk to you about getting your hands on a Copilot license. So in terms of examples, SharePoint Agents is about helping with document management. So document management agents help users organize and retrieve files efficiently. So you can use SharePoint Agents to actually go and find documents and then ask questions about them. It supports the collaboration. So collaboration agents facilitate team communication and project updates. So if you're wanting to get a quick summary of where a project's up to based on the documents that are stored in SharePoint, you can quickly and easily do this. And again, you can use these agents for search to enhance the ability to find relevant information quickly. Importantly, though, all of this is underpinned by your documents must be almost a single source of truth. It's your knowledge base. It's basically where all of the information is factual, kept up to date, because essentially all of these AI agents are only going to be as good as the documents that you keep up to date. So I'm going to show you a real world example of how we can create a policies agent using SharePoint Agents. So let's start off by looking at this demo area we have here. Now, this is our policies system. So this is where we store our policies. Now, essentially, this is all just driven by a single document library in the background of a SharePoint site called policies. Now, this is basically where we have all of our policy documents stored. We can see the individual policy name, the version number, which is tracked with both major and minor versions, when it was last modified, who was last modified by, the approval status, whether it's draft, pending, or approved. We can track the review and the approver. So basically, our documents make sure that they're stayed up to date. We go in, so the reviewer would go in this case it would be Lindsay. She would update the document and then submit it for approval by clicking on the button across up here and basically selecting the three dots and then selecting on send for approval. Submit for approval. We also have shortcuts where we can add buttons across the top, but essentially once it's been submitted for approval, it would then go to the approver to be approved. Often this takes place inside of the approval system built into Microsoft Teams, and then we update the approval date. So we know that this policy then is up to date and when it was last updated within here. We then got the next review date. So then what will automatically happen is when we hit that review date, it'll automatically then go back to the reviewer and say, hey, this document needs to be updated, and then it follows this cycle round and round forevermore, essentially making sure that this document stays up to date. We also have an additional add-on, which is our policy tracker. So we're tagging who do we want to make sure has basically confirmed that they've read all of these documents, and then we have a policy tracker list, which basically keeps track of exactly who has confirmed that they read individual policies that we've sent out. So we're very confident that this policy system, obviously this is just our test environment, but we're very confident that with this system in place, all of our documents stay up to date, which is vital for when we're applying our agent over the top of this to make sure that our employees are getting the most relevant, up-to-date, correct information. Now, it's really simple to create a new policy agent. All we need to do is select all of the policies, or we can just select a handful if we wanted to. So once we've selected them, you'll notice a button appears across the top called Create an Agent. So we click on that, and basically once we've got this selected, we would then say we're going to click on the Edit button across the bottom right hand corner, and then where we've got the name, we give it a name. So maybe we call this our policy agent. So this is basically what's going to appear to users when they use this. We can change the logo if we wanted to. So if you did have a particular logo that you wanted to use in this case, we could use that if we wanted to. The purpose. So this is basically going to give a brief description of the agent's objective. So in here, obviously I'd want to put something like, this agent will answer any questions related to Valto policies. Now, you can see across the bottom, we can also break this out into advanced customization in Copilot Studio. So at any time, you can upgrade your SharePoint agents into Copilot Studio agents. So if you needed to basically elevate the functionality, so this, as I say, is the most basic entry level. The SharePoint agents is very basic. If you need it to do more, like triggering workflows and things like that, you can always upgrade into a Copilot Studio agent at any point in time. Now, we can just click Save and Close, but there are a couple of other tabs as well. We can see the sources. Now, it is complaining a little bit here because I've selected more than 20. At the moment, the early stages of SharePoint Agents, you can only have up to 20 documents, which actually, for most scenarios, is more than enough. And don't forget, you could also merge some documents together. So in reality, obviously, these are just tests. We probably don't need necessarily 29 policy documents. We would probably merge these down and have a lot less for employees to actually consume. But you can see here all the sources. These are all the different documents that it is then going to be pulling from. We can then say the behavior. So what's the welcome message? So help users to understand how to best use this agent. So welcome, ask a question, or get started with these prompts. So we can say ask a question about Valto policies. And then we've got starter prompts. So it might be that you know the types of questions which are frequently asked to, say, the HR department about policies. So it might be, say, for example, how many holidays do I get a year? Maybe it's something like what day of the month do we get paid? What is our policy on working from home? So you can see now this has updated all of the kind of prompts on the right hand side. So it gives us a good understanding as a user the types of things we could possibly ask. You can then give agent instructions. So define the agent's role, tone, and limitations. Be specific about what responses you'd like and give examples if needed. So provide accurate information about the content in selected files and reply in a formal tone. So I could say, take the role of a HR director. Provide accurate information about the Valto policies, content in the selected files, and reply in a formal tone. There we go. So let's now test this. We can ask it a question. So we can say, for example, how many annual leave days do I get per year? So this is going to have a little thing. It's going to scan all of the documents that we have inside of the sources of this SharePoint agent. And it's going to be a little bit slow when you're first testing this, as it's just kind of indexing all the documents and putting everything together. And it's also a little bit slower inside of this preview than it actually is once we come to use it inside of a real world. So there we go. It's now answered and said, based on the internal policies, you're entitled to 25 days of paid annual leave per year, in addition to the 8 public bank holidays. So there we go. It's found all this information, and it's given me supporting information around the flexible holiday scheme, which is telling me that I can buy and sell holidays. So it fully understands the context and the types of information that we want to get. You can also see it's referencing where it's finding this. So it's found this information in the flexible holiday policy, whereas further down, this is then referring to the employment law employee handbook. So it's pulling out information from multiple sources. It's not just going to find it from that one place. Then we can click on the save button and it'll save it into our SharePoint. Now it'll actually save the agent alongside the document, so it'll store it in the same location that the documents are inside of. And simply by clicking it, you can also open it up on the right hand side, which basically means that we can ask it questions directly alongside this. Now I can also choose to copy a link, which means I can generate a link just like I'll generate a link to share a particular file or folder from inside of SharePoint, and then I can paste this link potentially into, say, a Teams group, for example. Or if I just open another tab and then paste this link, it's just going to take me directly to the agent. Now it'll open up like I would do a file. If this was Word, it would open up in Word. But because this is an agent, it's opening up as an agent in here. So again, I can ask it more questions. So maybe something like, what is our policy on working from home? and it's then going to be generating a response based on all of the information that's inside of those sources, all those different policy documents that we selected previously before. And as I say, it is going to reason over all of them and then bring back responses that it's found that's relevant from each of the individual policy files that I have selected inside of my policy agent. So it is a little bit slow at first, but it will speed up the more that it gets used. So you can see here, it's got a bit of information about the working from home, so how our daily structure works, the home workspace requirements, professional conduct, the equipment. It's got a load of really useful information about how Valto team works from home. I'll just close this off. But as I say, because this is actually stored like a file in SharePoint, everything else applies the same. We can apply permissions to it. We can delete it. We can share it. There is actually now an edit button. So if you want to go back into to be able to edit this particular agent, we can do this directly from here. So it's treated very much like a document is treated inside of a document library. As I say, SharePoint agents are fully accessible if you have a Copilot license. If you're yet to get a Copilot license, or you've got it and you're still not really sure the best way to get the return on investment from it, then you can contact us for a free Copilot assessment. This is fully funded by Microsoft, and you'll get a summary report which gives you an idea about how ready you are from a security, licensing, and optimization of your Microsoft 365 environment. It'll come with full recommendations that you can action yourself, or fixed prices of how Valto can help resolve some of these issues for you to get you ready. And we can also discuss some of the adoption packages to ensure you're getting the best value from your Copilot licenses.